Believe it or not, but we're almost at the quarter mark already of the 2024-25 OHL regular season, and we're starting to see separation. We've got the teams at the top of the standings who seem to be winning all the games, while the teams at the bottom just trying to win something over the recent stretch. So with that, we're not seeing as much movement in the power rankings, but let's dive into it and show where the teams are at this point in the regular season. Starting off with number 20, the Peterborough Petes. Again, no change for them. This is now 6 weeks in a row that the Petes have been at the bottom of the power rankings. They went 0-2 last week with a shootout loss to Niagara and then a 4-3 loss to Kingston. So Peterborough, they have now gone 14 games without a win. However, Ryder McIntyre put up 2 goals in the loss in Kingston. So maybe this is a sign that he's going to pick up his game here as one of the veterans on this Pete's team. It was his best game of the season so far, so there are the positives. But coming up, it's going to be a tough week. They play 4 games, starting Tuesday night at home to the Oshawa Generals, and then they travel west. They're going to be in Saginaw Thursday night. Friday, they're in Flint, and then Sunday against the Windsor Spitfires. So no easy games coming up here for the Peterborough Petes as they still look for that first win of the regular season. Number 19, we have the Guelph Storm. No change for them. This is now 5 weeks in a row that they've been sitting at number 19. This team, they just need to get healthy. They have Jet Lachenko back, but he's been kept off the score sheet in the 2 games this past week. So things are just not going right for the Guelph Storm right now. They're riding up. They've given up the most goals in the OHL with 65, which is one more than both Peterborough and Sarnia. So the Guelph Storm, I feel like they've got the players to turn this around and start to get some wins together, but until they get there, this team is just in free fall mode right now in the West as they right now sit bottom in that Western Conference standing. So this week, they start things off Wednesday in Brantford against the Bulldogs. Friday, they're home to the Erie Otters, and then Sunday, they take on the London Knights. At number 18, the Owen Sound Attack. No change for them. It was a tough 6-2 loss to Saginaw on Saturday, but then the Attack came back to force overtime against the London Knights yesterday before losing in overtime. A great effort there. It was a bit of a nail-biter late. Obviously, London controlled most of the overtime period, which resulted in Easton Cowan getting the game winner, but scoring, it has been an issue at time here for the Owen Sound Attack. Just 3 goals in their last 2 games. Their losing streak now sits at 8 games. So right now, tough times in the city of Owen Sound with the Owen Sound Attack. Coming up, they're home to the Sarnia Sting on Wednesday. Then they host Kitchener on Saturday. And then Sunday, they're home to the Sudbury Wolves. So another tough week ahead here for Owen Sound. At number 17, the Flint Firebirds. They fell 2 spots this week. It was a rough 3-3 for the Firebirds. They went 0-3, shutouts in 2 of those 3 games. That was against the Sioux and Windsor, but then managed 1 goal from Xavier Tessier in the 4-1 loss yesterday to the Spitfires, which also happened to be Tessier's first career OHL goal. So congratulations to Tessier. Coming up, though, for Flint, they're home to Peterborough on Friday. Saturday, they host the Sioux, and then on Sunday, they visit the Saginaw Spirit. At number 16, the Sarnia Sting. They're up 1 position this week. Sarnia, they kicked off an 8-game road swing because of the under-17s that are being held in Sarnia. So they're spending a lot of time away from home. But despite missing some key pieces, Sarnia, they found a way to win in Brampton 5-3 after losing their first 2 games in Kitchener and Oshawa. Easton Wainwright right now being called upon to lead this young team. And last week, 3 goals, 1 assist, good for 4 points. So not too shabby there from the veteran forward. Coming up, 3 more road games. First, it's Wednesday in Owen Sound. Friday, they visit the Niagara Ice Dogs. And then on Saturday, they're in Erie. Number 15, it's the North Bay Battalion, who are down 2 positions this week. It's been tough for North Bay. They've been missing Mike McIver in net and Anthony Romani out front due to injury. So you take 2 key pieces away, and this is a team that's been struggling, both keeping pucks out of the net and scoring themselves. They lost both their games against the Steelheads. However, they forced overtime in their second game back in North Bay, so they got a point out of that one. What I find surprising, though, about North Bay is how many penalty minutes they're taking. They have the most penalty minutes in the OHL with 244, which obviously is going to put pressure on their penalty kill, which is operating at 75.3%. So kind of average there on the penalty kill, but still something we don't usually see from the North Bay Battalion, one of the most penalized teams in the Ontario Hockey League. So coming up this week, two very tough road games. Thursday, it starts in Windsor against the Spitfires, and then Friday, they visit the London Knights. At number 14, we have the Ottawa 67s down another 3 spots. The fall of the 67s continues in the power rankings. However, they did earn 3 out of a possible 4 points last weekend. They won 5-4 in overtime against the Guelph Storm, and then where Henry Muse was the hero in that game, and then they lost in overtime to the Kingston Frontenacs. So they're getting into extra time. They're getting those points. However, winning against Guelph in overtime is not going to get you too far, considering their struggles right now. But for Ottawa, I feel like they have the pieces to be a better team. They've earned at least a point over their last 3, so they're going to try and climb out of the Eastern Conference basement. But it's going to take a lot of work from this team just to get back into the swing of things. Coming up, they're on the road Wednesday against Kingston, and then they host Brampton on Friday. At number 13, the Kingston Frontenacs. They're up 3 spots this week. Before the season started, I kind of wondered if Kingston was going to be the dark horse of the Eastern Conference. And with the recent play, they look like they're going to live up to those expectations. They're a perfect 3-0, and they're 3-3 with wins over Peterborough, Guelph, and Ottawa, which are teams that are below them in the standings overall, but they're getting the wins right now. Kingston's still the highest scoring team in the Eastern Conference. Jacob Battaglia and Tuomas Urinen, they lead the way with 23 points. However, Battaglia has the edge with 11 goals. So Kingston, first right now in the East Division. And I'm curious if they could maybe add a few pieces between now and the OHL trade deadline, maybe look to be a bit of a contender in the East. Obviously, the East, a lot of powerhouse teams taking shape. But Kingston, I think they could make things a little interesting. Coming up this week, they're home to Ottawa on Wednesday. Friday, they host the Oshawa Generals. And then Saturday, they're home to the Brampton Steelheads. At number 12, the Niagara Ice Dogs. They're up another 2 spots this week. It was a bit of a mixed bag for Niagara. They went 2-1, but needed a shootout against the Petes, and then fell apart late against the Barrie Colts in a 7-3 loss, which is the most goals they've given up in a game so far this season. It still looks like this team, they've got some great pieces up front. Kevin He has been a beast on the offensive side for Niagara, and they're holding on to top spots still in the Central Division. But I expect them, if they can continue this play, they're going to be a team that should be near the top of the power rankings in a few weeks' time. But it's been a fun run, and I'm sure Niagara Ice Dog fans pretty excited with what they're seeing on the ice. Now, coming up, they're home to Erie on Thursday night. Friday, they host Sarnia, and then Saturday travel to Brantford. At number 11, it's the Brantford Bulldogs. They dropped 3 spots this week. The Bulldogs, the 7-game point streak, it came to an abrupt end against the Erie Otters, and then they lost their next 2 games against Sudbury and Oshawa. So now they're on a 3-game losing streak. However, getting Thomas Hamara back from the Belleville Senators, he's been a boost. A goal, 4 assists, 5 points in 5 games. Well, Adam Jurczyk, who joined the team last week, still looking for his first point, but the pieces are in place. This is a Brantford team that should contend in the East Division, but just taking a bit of a step back this past week. Coming up on Wednesday, they're home to the Guelph Storm. Saturday, they host Niagara, and then Sunday, they visit the Brampton Steelheads. At number 10, the Brampton Steelheads, who are up 2 positions this week. The Steelheads' trend of playing .500 hockey continued last week. They had a big 7-2 win over the North Bay Battalion to start the week. Then they lost 5-3 to Sarnia, which was a bit of a surprise. And then they finished the week with a 5-4 win in overtime in North Bay. So despite that, Porter Martone leads the league now in scoring with 32 points, while Carson Rakoff, he's 4th with 28. It seems like everything still goes through that top line for the Brampton Steelheads, but I'm sure as the season progresses, the depth will be addressed. But this is still a very dangerous team in the Central Division, and I feel as though we should see this team climb as well in the power rankings. Coming up Friday, they're in Ottawa to face the 67s. Saturday, they travel to Kingston, and then Sunday return home to face Brantford. The Barrie Colts, no change for them at number 9. It was a statement win over the Niagara Ice Dogs on the road, where Bo Akey had a 4-point game, a goal, 3 assists. But then they had nothing left in the tank, it seemed, against the Erie Otters, where they lost 4-0. Now, Dallin Wakely, he missed the last 2 games due to an ankle injury. We'll have to wait and see how long he may be out for. It could be a week-to-week situation for Wakely. Obviously, this team, they're still playing well. This team, they need to play a full 60 minutes. That's, I think, the real concern right now for the Barrie Colts. Too often, the first period, we don't really see that sense of urgency until the second or even in the third period. They try to mount comebacks and whatnot. So that's something I'm sure Marty Williamson, the coaching staff, will look to have addressed. But coming up this week, Friday, they're in Sudbury, and then they host the Sudbury Wolves on Saturday. At number 8, it's the Sudbury Wolves, who have fallen one spot this week. It was a very challenging 3-3 for the Sudbury Wolves last week. They managed 3 out of a possible 6 points on the road. Quentin Musty and Andre Molnar both had an impact in their regular season debuts for the team. After ending his holdout, Musty had 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in his 3 games, while Molnar, 2 goals after being acquired from the Erie Otters. So things looking pretty good right now for the Sudbury Wolves, considering the teams they had to play against last weekend: Kitchener, Brantford, and Niagara. So keep an eye on the Sudbury Wolves team, as right now it seems like you have a motivated Quentin Musty on this team. We'll see how far that'll go. Obviously, he wants to be on the Team USA at the World Juniors, so he's going to be putting up points. But still, the Sudbury Wolves, a very interesting team right now in the East. At number 7, it's the Saginaw Spirit. They're down 2 spots this week. The Spirit, they split the weekend on the road, a win in Owen Sound, and then a loss in Kitchener. So it's kind of odd right now seeing the Saginaw Spirit struggle, as they're 4-6 over their last 10 games. Also, in their loss to Kitchener, Michael Misa's 14-game point streak came to an end. He put up 18 goals, 10 assists, 28 points during that point streak, and those 18 goals puts him first in the OHL in that category. So still a very lethal offense, but just odd seeing Saginaw struggling a little bit right now. Coming up Thursday, they host the Peterborough Petes. Saturday, they're home to the Windsor Spitfires, and then on Sunday, they're home to the Flint Firebirds. At number 6, the Sault Greyhounds. Now, Sault Ste. Marie has seen the most movement on the power rankings. They started the season 8th, dropped all the way down to 16th, and have now climbed their way back up to 6th. The Greyhounds, they're 8-2 over their last 10 games, and they've won 5 of their last 6 games, and their only loss was against the London Knights, and that was on Friday night. So this team, they're getting wins against some of the big teams. Like, they won in Windsor at the WFCU Center and handed the Spitfires their first regulation loss of the season on home ice. So this Greyhounds team, I think a lot of people were kind of counting them out when they had that slow start to the season, but they've been very competitive. They're getting some solid goaltending from Miller and Schenkel, having Allard in the lineup along with Nord. Magnosa's back. Even Bryce McConnell, with McConnell Barker being back in the lineup, that's been helping. So things looking pretty solid right now with the Sault Greyhounds. We'll see if they can continue this momentum. Wednesday, they're home to London Knights. Friday, they're in Kitchener. And then on Saturday, they visit the Flint Firebirds. At number 5, the Erie Otters. They're up 1 spot this week. It might be early in the season, but for Noah Erliden, he has to be one of the early candidates for OHL Goaltender of the Year. He posted his first career OHL shutout against Barrie on Saturday, where he had to make 23 saves, so it wasn't too busy. But he right now has a .930 save percentage, and that's just in 11 games of work. He's been looking phenomenal for the Otters. So this Erie team, I think they're legit and riding a 3-game point streak. So we'll see if they can continue this. Coming up Thursday, they're in Niagara. Friday, they visit the Guelph Storm. And then on Saturday, they're home to the Sarnia Sting. At number 4, the Oshawa Generals. No change for them from last week. It was another solid week for the Generals. They were 2-0, and they outscored their opponent 10-4. Since the return of Callum Ritchie, Oshawa has won 4 in a row, and he has 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points in those 4 games. So Ritchie, a big factor in this team's turnaround. Oshawa starting to look like a threat in the East, like we anticipated, and we'll see if that continues this week. They start Tuesday in Peterborough. Friday, they're in Kingston, and then Sunday, home to Kitchener. That's going to be a big game on Sunday between the Generals and the Rangers. At number 3, the Windsor Spitfires. They dropped 1 position this week. The Spitfires, 2-1 last week. Their 1 loss was against the Sault Greyhounds at home. That was, of course, their first loss at the WFCU Center this season. Now, you can't win every game. So this team, they did respond well after that loss, shutting out the Flint Firebirds 3-0 on the road and then winning at home against Flint 4-1. So I don't think there's a lot of concern. I think just this team, they're able to score at will, and they're getting great goaltending from Joey Costanzo. So yes, they lost that 1 game against the Greyhounds, but Sault Ste. Marie one of the hotter teams right now in the OHL. So nothing to panic about with the Windsor Spitfires. Now, coming up this week, they're home to North Bay on Thursday. Saturday, they travel to Saginaw. And then on Sunday, they're home to the Peterborough Petes. At number 2, it's the London Knights, who are up 1 position. London, they ended up going 2-0 last week, but there were some tense moments in both of those games. They held on to a 4-3 win over the Greyhounds and then needed overtime in a 2-1 win over the Owen Sound Attack. Easton Cowan continues to be a point machine for the Knights. He has points in all 10 games so far, including the overtime winner against the Attack. So this is a team that's putting a string of wins together. They're getting the points and trying to catch Windsor and Kitchener right now at the top of the Western Conference standings. So coming up for London, Wednesday, they're in Sault Ste. Marie. Friday, they're home to North Bay. And then on Sunday, they travel to Guelph. And that leaves us with the number 1 team in the power rankings for the 4th week in a row. It's the Kitchener Rangers. They have been so dominant these last 4 weeks. I'm actually quite surprised with the lack of attention Kitchener's received when it comes to other power rankings around the Ontario Hockey League. They're right now riding a 9-game winning streak, and they have earned points in 14 consecutive games. You have to go back to September 28th when they lost their last game in regulation. That was a 12-2 defeat to the Windsor Spitfires, and the flu was reportedly going through the team that opening weekend. So this is a good team. I know a lot of us thought maybe Kitchener was looking to the future when they traded away Carson Rakoff, and they rightfully so. They are looking to the future, except this team the systems are working. The players are committed. Adrian Misljevic, now 3rd in goals with 12, 5th in points with 25. So things have been going right for Kitchener. We'll see how long this momentum can continue, but I really feel like Kitchener not getting the respect they deserve with this winning streak. It's been very impressive, and we'll see if this will continue into the upcoming week, because they do have some tough competition. Friday, they're home to the Sioux Greyhounds. Saturday, they travel to Owen Sound, and then Sunday, they visit the Oshawa Generals. So that's how I see it from the OHL this week in the power rankings. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on this power rankings, or just your thoughts on the week that was, as we're almost a quarter of the way through the OHL season already. Hard to believe. But thank you very much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.